welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and it's the Stat Show. It's Tuesday, and I'm going to have to say a bunch of things because I realise I haven't, Mr. LLV, turned on your microphone. So I'm just going to be talking to you as I do that. But welcome, everyone, to Tuesday. It's the Stat Show. We're going to be looking at the stats from April 23rd. I'm very, very excited. I'd ask you how you are, LLV, but you actually won't be able to tell me right now. So just give me a moment. I'll try it. Give it a try. Hello? No, I haven't cut you off. No one else can hear you. Just me. This is a terrible start to a live show. What a terrible person I am. Scrivo, thanks for subscribing for 18 months in a row. A year and a half we've been here for. That's quite exciting. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little bit echoey now, but that's coming through now.
Unfortunately, that is going to happen because I did some things. I'm sorry about this, so it's going to be a tough time for you.
It's all good.
The thing I told you about before we started the show has now caused this issue. So, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's Tuesday. We're talking AOS stats, the world's most comprehensive Warhammer stats ever been put together by one man. He's half robot, half machine, but he's all lover. That's right. It's Mr. LLV. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, not as good a lover as Dan from AOS Shorts.
Oh my God.
Not as good looking as that man. I don't think anybody in the universe is at this point.
Just so gorgeous. Just so gorgeous.
Yeah. I'll stick to the numbers. I'll let him. I'll let him stick to the loving.
Good. Yes. He's only got the one woman though, and she's the luckiest lady in all of Warhammer, in my opinion. So hi, Tom. I hope everyone is good. Heinrad, welcome to the show. Hello to everyone on Twitch. Hello to everyone on YouTube and everyone on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. If you listen to the podcast, I hope you're well. I hope you enjoy the stats. You guys are brilliant. Hello, Sinise in the chat. Welcome to Bolt Watcher, Scrivo. You babe. Right, so...
Scrivo. Scrivo's going to be my roommate for Bobo.
Oh, you're excited about that?
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Don't worry, he's a great cuddler, so everything's going to be fine. He's very soft, gentle.
I'm trying to figure out if I buy a mop and bucket here and bring it with me, or like buy it in England for the inevitable morning cleanups. Yeah. From the stories I've heard.
Hi, Decion. Hi, Chuckabutty TV. Made worse with alcohol. Apparently, Chuckabutty says he snores very loud, so loads to learn there. And you're learning loads about the Honest Wargamer show hosts. So before we go on any further, thank you to everyone who subscribes on Twitch. Thank you to everyone on Patreon. You guys are wonderful, and you help us pay for the Honest Wargamer, where you can find the stats currently. So if you go on thehonestwargamer.com, click stats, click April 23rd, you will see the stats from this week. These have been collected ever since the start of Age of Sigmar 2.0, so the release of the Soul Wars box, to catch you up if you're new and you don't know what's going on. And yeah, have a read because there's some really interesting stuff. Adequate Wargamer, thank you for subscribing, by the way, for 14 months. God, you're nice. What a nice man. Or lady, I don't know. And I'm not saying it's a lady because it's an Adequate Wargamer. That's a whole... I'm running away. LLV, save me. What's the first table we're looking at?
There's a hole. Let's look at events.
So yes,
before that hole gets bigger.
Right. Okay. Hey, Mandollies. Oh, what? Can I just say a personal shout out to Mandollies? You're going to see some new stuff coming from the Honest Wargame in the next couple of weeks, and that particular person is a hero to me. So much so I got a little emotion about it the other day. So yeah, what a superstar. Well done, you. Hi, the Crumpeter. Damn it, and Rintra and Sinise. Yeah, this is awkward. Let's all flee. So, LLV, catch me up. What's happened? So previously, I'm right in thinking Iron Jaws have won all of the events in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, Iron Jaws, I think, are on the precipice of a huge nerf coming this new General's Handbook.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I would like to see points hikes on both Iron Jaws, Gutbusters, and I really would like to see them go on Slaves to Darkness. They need a kick in.
Slaves to Darkness, yeah. Maybe something with the new rules, right? Like at the beginning of a game, roll a dice. If you roll a 6+, you win. That's kind of in line with some of the new rules, right?
Right. So yeah, do you mind if I give a quick catch up to everyone? If you're new and you haven't followed the stats before, you'll be able to see thanks to you can click through all the different stats through the different months, as you can see. Like if you go onto thehonestwargamer.com, they're all up there still, so all archived.
Yeah.
And where you see the table on the new stats from this week, AOS 2.2, that's from about Christmas time. So that's basically everything this year. So the start of this like calendar year, not scholastic year, and not Chinese year. I don't think the pretty much Greco year. Am I right? Have I dug another hole? This is so much
Yeah,
fun.
no, that's right. It's the year as per Games Workshop. Games Workshop's FAQ. So this is everything post the last FAQ that Games Workshop had, which is why we're calling it AOS 2.2.
Yeah. So, but previously, in since the game released, the big story where Daughters of Cain was so powerful, and still are realistically. Legions and Nagash also, they were the kind of two big bullies in the yard, and some notable others were things like Ideneth, Khorne, Sylvaneth. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's right. Stormcast won a couple of events as well. So that was a kind of ongoing story. Then we got into AOS 2.2. We did think we'd see points changes for Daughters of Cain. We didn't see any. But we did see the Wrath and Rapture box come out, which did mean that we saw an increase in Host of Slanesh wins. And then we've had so many battle tomes now, and we'll get to that bit of news in a minute. But the ongoing story is since the Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven book, we've seen some pretty big changes. And then we're now, I think you guys can see on the screen, so I think that catches us up with the story. We've had 4 events this weekend, so Age of Sigmar is just going crazy, right? It's just everywhere.
It's everywhere, yeah. 3 events were the orange bars, people looking at the table at home. The orange bars are just denoting things where I have the results regarding finishes, but I don't have the full results. So if you can see the dates there, April 13th, the Tirou de Grand Clash from Quebec, Canada. We did cover that last week as far as placings go. I'm still just waiting for the actual full data to put it into all of the matrix. So the 3 big events this weekend: Australian AOS Heat 2, the Wet Coast GT, and GothCon, and that's Australia, Canada, and Sweden, respectively.
Wow. Okay. So just like we've said, all across the world, and also big shout out to Canada. I'm pretty certain the Wet Coast GT was covered very comprehensively by our own show host Dan Unsupervised last night. So you can watch that back on YouTube, and you should be able to listen to the podcast soon.
If you want to get into things like lists, he looked at the top 3 lists, and then he did a little bit of a rundown on how his tournament went, because he actually participated in that event, which we'll save that one for later. That's a little bit of a nugget there.
Good. So yeah, that would be. So go watch that back if you're interested. So that's cool that we had our infield reporter there doing that. I just want to say a big shout out to Coots45 for subscribing for 15 months. Thank you so much. Okay, we appreciate it loads. Anyone that does that, you're helping so much. I can't tell you. Right. So Australia Heat 2 was won by Flesh Eater Courts.
Wow, yeah, what a surprise. Yeah, we're going to start the narrative with much as we left off last week. Flesh Eater Courts took it down, went 5-0. I'm going to big shout out to Gemma. If people managed to watch any of the CanCon coverage from a few months ago, The Honest Wargamer, she actually did a full, I think she commentated a full game because she was one of the helpers there.
She did, Gemma's an Australian master, so she's been invited to the Australian Masters run by Clint from the Heralds of War. I think she took to the Masters this year thricefold. She was. What was wonderful was I lost my voice over at CanCon. Wonderful asked Gemma to do it, and she just didn't do it. You can also listen to her and everyone around her on the Failed Charge podcast. So just a great group of people, and absolutely, and like Sinise is saying in the chat, Gemma does kick so much ass. So yeah,
Mhm.
and all of her group are just wonderful people to play Warhammer with. So really lucky that we've got such a great rep in the hobby there. And she won with Flesh Eater Courts there. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, 5-0, Flesh Eater Courts. Yeah, just to mention, that is actually a very good player winning with Flesh Eater Courts, which we do see as well. We do see it's not all just people buying it and putting it on the table and going 5-0. She's actually got some AOS chops. She knows what she's doing, so that's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, a competent gamer being given an overly competent book is dangerous.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but it's nice seeing Sylvaneth in second and
yeah.
Skaven in third. Now Skaven for me, the top pick. I did talk about last week. Everyone, it's dragon hunting season. That's what we're in. We all have to kill these Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist. I think Skaven are one of those armies that have the tools. They've got the shooting. They've got the capacity to do that. So we really need. We really need. Well, we're going to see them do more, I think. And we saw at GothCon, to skip one quickly, that Skaven ended up winning the event, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, they did.
Yeah, and then Blades of Corn in
So
second and Daughters of Cain third. It's nice seeing Blades of Corn go up there as well, especially with their new book. I haven't yet decided where I think they're going to sit in the grand scale of things. In the always strikes first, always strikes last. Not really sure when I strike game that we're now in. I would think Skaven do well because they can just shoot you before we even have to have the conversation. But yeah, Blades of Corn getting a second is a big one as well, especially in Sweden, right?
yeah, I haven't seen the full results for GothCon yet, but so I don't know how many Flesh Eater Courts players. I don't think there were many going in, and I believe there was one towards the top tables that may have been beaten by one of these three armies that ended up winning. But we'll get all the full results for next week. I've got a big shout out to Nagash of Sweden. He's the man. He always provides us all of the full breakdowns of all the Swedish tournaments that we've been logging.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to read out some stuff from the chat. I just want to say hi, everyone. Jim 90 says currently building anti-shooting FEC list. I'm excited to see that, Jim 90. The Crumpiter says we were expecting FEC to be the top table constantly or more of a gatekeeper. I would say the top table all of the time. The Crumpiter is my opinion. Then Studio Earthwood says hi. Joe Nort says something about a Roblin GF. I'm not really sure what that means. And Chuckle, he does talk about, yeah, sorry, we have got a name now for what the combat phase has become in the Age of Sigmar series, and that would be the Activation Wars. That is how it's been dubbed. Very excited to have so hot right now Studio Earthwood in here. And Joe Nort says, I got steamrolled by a, I think that's BOK. Wow, when people anachronize,
Blades of Corn.
Thanks, thank you. When a Bloodthirster did 36 mortal wounds to 4 of my units. Nice.
Wow, that's reasonable.
Dan Hammer CG says he's painted up 90 Glade Guard list. And then loads of Lead Belcher says Decion because he thinks Gutbusters have got the power.
90 Glade Guard. Yeah. Would that be a Wanderers player, I'm guessing?
Yes, absolutely. And also, Hellstorm Dan, hello to you, and also hello to the Stats Master. So, Skaven winning, that's good. I'd be excited to see what's in that list.
Secret tech for the Wanderers player before moving on? Wild Rider with shields. I heard.
Move on. Get
yeah.
out
of here. Come on, yeah, let's go. Skaven won, yeah.
Skaven got Blaze of Corn in third, second, and then Daughters of Cain. So that's sweet. Daughters of Cain, they're still an amazingly solid army. They've got lots of answers, but in the environment where people, because they can still got 6-inch pylons, which means they can deal with some of the always strikes first shenanigans that exist in the game. Which is quite helpful, but they're still just very, very solid, really good. They're amazingly tanky, which is quite shocking realistically. So some of that kind of like raw combat power that you're going to see from things like Flesh Eater Courts, potentially you're going to see from Disciples of Tzeentch, not Disciples of Tzeentch, I don't mean that. The Hedonists of Slaanesh, that's the first time I've said it. I'm just going to say Slaanesh. I don't think I've got the the language to keep saying hedonists all the time. I'm just going to call them Slaanesh, right? The sexy ones. So we might see big output from them. But I think the Daughters of Cain have got the tools to handle that and then give it back. But Blades of Corn
Yeah,
being able to shut down magic could be a big one because a lot of these armies are relying on magic to do a lot of work at the minute.
yeah, and we talked about the narrative right at the top of the show here. One thing we didn't mention is Daughters of Cain didn't get any worse. It's just a lot of people stopped really playing them. We'll see that later on. Their actual representation dropped off a lot. So we've seen Daughters a little bit of an uptick in representation, and as that's happened, they've started coming back into those podium places again.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, I think it's a very interesting time in Age of Sigmar personally. But I think it's if you listen to if you're listening to last week's show, you will hear that Flesh Eater Corpse and Skaven, I think, are on the ramp. But we're now, and I just had a message off my friend Joe, and I think that's true. Just with the sheer volume of releases, it's going to be, and maybe the Age of Sigmar kind of like general gaming environment, like the threats that you need to be aware of, may never settle down again if they continue up with this pace of book release. If that's the case, what you're going to want to do is identify the threats that are out there as a kind of more general term. So, always strikes first, units that are going to do lots of damage in combat, you need to be aware of that. Heavy magic armies, Skaven would be one of those. And then heavy shooting armies, so Skaven, Kharadron Overlords. Those are things to think about. The other thing to think about are armies that have really solid saves, so that would be Stormcast and also Fire Slayers. So, they're all really interesting. The key element I would say to think about is units that can fly, because you can screen out a lot of the threats and problems, but units that can fly are going to cause you some issues because they're going to be able to jump over that. So that's the kind of general think around at the minute. That's my thoughts anyway. While you're writing some lists and looking at this, and always think about, can your combat unit survive against 800 points of combat unit before you fight? That's a good question. Because those poor 5 Spite Revenants that you got weren't very good before, and now they're really bad.
Yeah. Or you could just play Dispossessed like I'm doing and throw that all out of a window because you realize you don't have the tools to deal with any of it.
You've
So
got
it's just
all of the shooting, brother. You've got all of the shooting. You're going to be fine.
No, there's going to be no shooting here, honest. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But speaking of shooting and magic and flying, Iron Jaws took 3rd place at the Wet Coast GT.
Oh, really? Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we've skipped forward. Sorry. So the Wet Coast GT, Disciples of Tzeentch getting a 1st. That's awesome. Destruction getting 2nd, and then Iron Jaws getting a 3rd place. So Mixed Destruction also is a big shout as well.
So I would call that Mixed Destruction list. It was very similar to the beginning of competitive Age of Sigmar. Do you remember where they was a big ton of what are they called? The big beastie boys on the snowball machines.
Yeah, Thunder Tusks.
Thunder Tusks. Big group of Thunder Tusks. Big group of the Stonehorns, and then a ton of Gloomspite Gits.
Yeah. Okay, so old school. So an old school Mixed Destruction list. Wow.
Just totally old school. Yeah.
That's
like
wow, that's the first General's Handbook army.
It literally was, yeah. The Iron Jaws list will be something close to your heart, Rob. This was a full Gore-Grunter list.
It's arguably one of the better lists because it's such a volume. Yeah. It's a bit like Dan's Beast of Chaos list. It just throws. He just throws wounds and bodies at you and then goes and caps objectives, which is really solid in the right scenarios and the right matchups.
Yeah.
I've had a question from the chat. Arkian's asked, I'll give you 1,000 bits if you say the only good dwarf is a shaved one. I refuse. I would like the money for the show, but I refuse because all dwarves should have a beard. And little side note, if anyone wants some music for their week, you can listen to a band from Australia called The Beards, who have, I think, 4 albums out, and every single song is about a beard. So give that a listen, all you Dwarven players, you Dwarden kings. Have you ever listened to that band, LLV? It will make you laugh.
I haven't. I will look them up. I will use the Googles.
Use the Googles. So I endures. That's good. All the Gore Grunters, they're in a really tough spot gaming wise at the minute, and their stats have been fairly low. So even getting on the podium is a big shout out. The mixed destruction is really cool. That's a blast from the past, and just I like he's just soldiering on. He's just like, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep snowballing people and doing grots. That's my thing. And then Disciples of Zinch. I think there's a really good army in Disciples of Zinch, and I'm glad that they won it.
Yeah. The disciples did include the kind of obligatory 9 enlightened, but the rest of the army, I believe, was Kairos, a couple of casters, and then a ton of the guys we don't see very much. The Arcanites, I think they're called.
Acolytes.
Acolytes. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think because have the points been reduced so much that they're now a viable unit?
Pretty much. He had a unit of 40, but he was running, there's a small battalion called the Witchfire Coven, which lets them use shooty attack twice.
Okay, awesome. Okay, shooting attack twice, baby. All right, nice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Well, I might take those lists
think-
and have a little do a little show on them, do a little think through. That'd be quite exciting to look at those, to be honest, especially those three, because that sounds like a really Canada might be challenging Australia for the confusing meta environment now.
It is, yeah. So what I think it is actually now, breaking it down, I think it's just dispossessed Dan. I think wherever he is in the world, what happens is like something goes wrong with like the general status quo. It all gets twisted on its head, and that is the meta. And now Dan is in Canada. That's what's going on. Disciples of Zinch is winning, and Destruction and Iron Jaws are coming second. Thanks, Dan.
So Dan has taken his virus of confusing podium places.
I mean, look at Canada last week.
Yeah.
Flesh Eater Courts, Skaven. Dan comes here. Disciples of Zinch, Destruction, Iron Jaws. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
That's it. The Honest Wargamer show hosts, we confuse the conversation as much as we can, right? I mean, I was at Adepticon and Seraphon won, right? So wherever we go,
it. We've cracked it.
We've cracked it. It's us. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
If people don't want Flesh Eater Courts to win their events, hire the Honest Wargamer to come to your coverage. Everything will just go tits. There you go.
Yeah, well, no, that's not true. No, Beast House did win. Yeah, maybe that's true.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe that's
Look at every event.
Yeah, that is weird. All right, okay. Something to be... I'm going to track our own effect. Get some maths on. Right, so... again, Flesh Eater Court's doing good. Skaven finally popping up there a little bit more as well. And as we move on to the next table, we will see that since Age of Sigmar started, Daughters of Cain were the best performing army. And then Legions of Cash were second. Now they're not. In such a short space of time, Flesh Eater Courts have become the second best performing army. And I'm pretty certain in 2 weeks' time, they'll have the top spot.
Yes. I believe the South Coast GT is coming this weekend, so they have the chance. If Flesh Eater Courts go first, they will be tied with Daughters, and then one more event, and they're top of the table, which is pretty insane considering they're only not even a couple of months old. So if you look at Daughters, they've had nearly a year worth of games, whereas Flesh Eater Courts have had
7
just
weeks.
A handful of months.
Yeah,
basically
less than 2 months. So what we might see is in 2 months, Flesh Eater Courts will have taken over Daughters of Cain as the front runner in all of Age of Sigmar since its inception. However, if we go for Age of Sigmar since the beginning of this year, so AOS 2.2, they are the out-and-out champs with 8 first places, 3 second places, and 2 third places. In total, 13. Legions of Nagash, who, by the way, are the most populous faction, so the most used army in all of Age of Sigmar is Legions of Nagash army. So you would think that they have a bigger chance to win. So that would be they're in second place, 3 first places, and then 3 seconds. So it's just a big shout, a lot. Also, hi to Donald Dino's joined. Hope you're doing well, you gorgeous man. So yeah. Donaldinho, FEC are not fine. FEC are completely over the top, and the stats prove that. But we don't need to have that conversation again. We had that conversation last week. We all need to bring as many guns as possible. And just like the meme I stole off LLV from Indiana Jones, like if someone's waving loads of look, they can't strike first if they're dead before they get to strike. So let's shoot those dragons out the sky, right? We're all Jamie.
Yeah.
No, who was it? Bronn. Game of Thrones spoiler, but we're all Bronn, or the Night King. If you haven't seen Season 7, we're all trying to kill a dragon. That's what we are. We're all White Walkers. That's not to talk about the kind of like incredibly obvious demographic for the Warhammer community.
Going down some holes again.
Oh
here.
no,
So,
I'm moving away.
We're going. Yeah. So big thing looking at AOS 2.2 specifically, we see the rise of the Skaven. They're slowly clawing. See that what I did there? They're slowly clawing their way up the charts there into third position. So they could even take over Legions in the Gash with a couple of good showings. And we've still got the hosts of Slaanesh, soon to become the Header Knights of Slaanesh, up at the top. We'll have to make that decision, I guess. I guess with Header Knights being a completely new named book, we'll kind of restart the stats on them, I'm guessing.
No, I think. Well, can we not? No, because it's.
Should we roll them in?
I think we should roll them in personally.
Yeah.
I like because there's going to be a lot more tools in there, but I think the core mechanics of how the army works is basically the same. It's going to run across the board and do some stuff.
As long as they're not folding in other things, because like we had to obviously restart with things like Gloomspite because they were folding in like 3 different factions at that point. Same with the Beasts of Chaos. But if Slaanesh doesn't roll in any other things, I think we should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine. But yeah, I think that's a good key takeaway there. If you look, before the Hedonites of Slaanesh have even been released, they're the 4th best performing faction, right? In that, since
as far as podiums.
As far as podiums, yes. Sorry, not on win rates or anything else. So, and I would say that, in my opinion, Skaven's the best book out at the minute. It's got the most tools and most utility and the most undercosted units in the game. Like, it's just ludicrous. 120 points for a 2-cast wizard is just crazy. So, like, if you pound for pound, if you compare the Skaven book for almost everything, it's just bananas. But possibly takes using a little bit more than the Flesh Eater Courts book, in my opinion. No offense to the Flesh Eater Courts players.
A bit more of investment as far as the army's concerned as well. Not just buying the units, but painting them as well. There's a lot more bodies and things around. So I could almost see Skaven being an army. Everyone knows the General's Handbook is on the kind of cusp of being released in the next couple of months here. So I'd almost see Skaven as one of those where you kind of wait to see what happens in the General's Handbook. If they don't get touched much, I could see a lot of people jumping on them, knowing that they've got, a full 6 to 12 months with omnipotence, so to speak.
No, they won't, because I'm going to bring nothing but guns. I will shoot them dead. My entire mission now in life is just to murder Gore Kings and Terror Guys. It's all I care about, and it's all I want to achieve. So, and if everyone's shooting, they can't win. Think about that, right? Think about that, everyone. Let's get into it. Take 800 points of cannons. I'd also like to shout out that there's a Gutbusters somewhere along here. Is there not? No, there's not. I thought there was a Gutbusters somewhere. Oh, there are in the overall stats. 19th place.
There were. Mick Wendell took a tournament down, but that was pre-December. So.
Yeah. Okay. Mandolis, what's with the FEC hate? Don't know. It takes skills to roll 6s with Terror Guys. That's some Australian sarcasm there for you. Right. Also, big shout out to Daughters who are dropping down again. I think their popularity in being taken is just a thing. They're just not being used as much. And also Disciples of Tzeentch popping up as well. I think there's some Tzeentch builds. I think people are starting to realise, realistically, if we look at the Beasts of Chaos stat, they're in 6th place. That's in an almost entirely Tzeentchian army. So Enlightened almost effectively is the entire thing. And you can use those inside of a Disciples of Tzeentch book almost as effectively realistically, and you get access to a pretty heavy magic lore. And I would
Yeah.
say that the magic phase or the hero phase from Tzeentch is stronger than the magic phase that you get from Beast of Chaos, but you don't necessarily get the summoning, which might be the key factor in the swing win.
You still get the summoning with Tzeentch, but it's a little different, right? You get the amount of spells being cast. You get to bring units onto a table. They do have a summoning mechanic. It's just a little more difficult to pull off than the Beast of Chaos one.
Just not as good.
I think just not as good. Yeah,
is the easiest way to. Yeah. So
yeah, but you do get your fate dice. It's funny because people forgot. People used to bemoan fate dice, and it's I guess fate dice are pretty useless if you don't even get to hit something before you use them, right?
I can use two sixes in the combat phase, but if I'm already dead, yeah. So let's.
You're already dead. Use your sixes.
That's
right. You rolled
9
sixes.
But you can do a lot of mortal wounds out from a Tzeentch army in the hero phase.
Yeah. You got we're talking about shooting, right? Magic is basically shooting. So if you've got a heavy magic build that can put out a lot of mortals, that would also take down things like Terrorgeist.
Also, a good shout out for, again, Skaven in their popularity. A lot of that's centered around magic, I'd argue, because they can just do so much. So, again, it's nice having Khorne in there because they can do some anti-magic. But you might just be able to, as the Tzeentchian army, although I actually think Skaven are a better magic army than Tzeentch, but there might be some. That's me having not looked at the book for maybe a year, so I'm gonna go refresh myself on that book. I think because there might be.
Is that the new build? Is that it? Take Disciples of Tzeentch, ally in some Skaven shooting. Job's a good one.
No, it's not. That's not. Shh! Don't tell anyone.
Shh. Okay.
Let's move away. Right. Right. So there we go. That's the podiums. Then we got for the 2.2 overall breakdown. So as you can see here, this is how many of each army have turned up. And then something just happened. I'm pretty certain. Oh, Hook and Pin, thanks for donating 1,050 bits, you babe. That's so nice of you. Appreciate that loads. Just because she just wants some dragons to die, because she's a big Game of Thrones fan.
I hear she's all about the numbers as well. She's a staunch follower of these stats.
Yeah, she just wants the dragons to be slain, like Gendry slew Arya.
Spoilers.
That's not actually that's not an actual spoiler, so don't worry about it. Right, look, Legions of Nagash is the most used army. Stormcast in second place there for armies that you might face, but already whomping into popularity is the Flesh Eater Courts at 5.1. Also, Scrivo, thanks for 324 bits for the Salt God. I appreciate that loads. I wish. I'm not reading the chat at the minute. They're trying to distract me. Let me read out the stats for everyone. Daughters of Cain still at that kind of 5% mark. 5% seems to be pretty much the Legions of Nagash is effectively the entire death range, right?
Yeah. To a degree, we've seen it drop off, and because it was up to the heady heights of close to 13% at one point. But death is death. So I'm sure a few of those Flesh Eater Court players were Legions of Nagash players at one point.
Yeah, I'm not reading. Don't read the chat. It's full of distractions. Yes, they absolutely are. But let's look at the win rates in comparison, right? So Legions of Nagash is sat quite nicely at 57% win rate. So they'll win basically 3 games, is what we're roughly saying there. And Flesh Eater Courts are at 61, but Daughters of Cain are still that they've had a flat between. I mean, is this the lowest their win rate's been ever? 65%.
Yeah, it's coming down. It again up in the he got up to the nosebleed territories of I want to say close to 76-77% at one point, but that a lot of that was on the back of our friend so hot right now, Ben Fava. But he had a run, but still can't beat Flesh Eater Courts. I think he only made Daughters of Cain come first at an event twice, whereas Flesh Eater Courts have come first at multiple events with multiple players, 6 times in a row. So We'll see if
Yeah.
anyone can beat that
So
streak.
So FYI for anyone, because sometimes you'll get a little bit of a rub for this, so I'm just going to make a clear and present statement to everyone out there who's listening to the Stat Show. It's the army, not the players. And absolutely, some people are going to lose Speckles with Flesh Eater Courts, but it's multiple players all across the globe with the same army winning, having maybe sometimes it's their first or second event with that army. Again, it's the army, not the player. The army is way too strong and way stronger than most other armies. Just going to make that a flat statement. That is my opinion, but I feel that that's close to a fact. So there you go. And I'm just, LLV, don't chip in. That's my statement. I'm leaving it there. Everyone else can challenge me on that. Yeah, right. And if they want to, fuck off. You're wrong. Let's move on. Right. Hostess and Ash though, and that's what's really exciting at the minute. 60% before win rate before their book even comes out. One of the better performing armies in 2.2 before the game even starts. What do you think?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's going to be really cool to see. I don't think we've had an army of the recent releases be in such a not dominant, but such a good position before a new book release. So it's going to be interesting to see them turned up to 11. And they're pretty well represented as well. I mean, in only 2.2%, but if you look at some of these factions, are getting less than 0.5, 0.1% coverage. Then they're up there with some reasonable representation as well, which is always good to see.
Yeah, I think that you're going to see their popularity increase, which will actually lower their numbers because you get that with Stormcast, right? Stormcast are a pretty solid army that can win events, but currently they're set on like a 48% win rate. So you'd be like, oh, they're not overly good. But there's a lot of players playing them, a lot of hobbyists playing them, people who aren't just trying super hard to like win events necessarily. Some really pretty armies. Like I think of someone like Oscar Lyles with his insanely beautiful Stormcast army, and he's painting the units he wants and then taking them to tournaments. So absolutely,
yeah.
I think that's fine.
And you do get a spread, but one thing to mention is we have, as far as how statistics work, again, kind of touching on that player versus faction kind of conversation. The big thing to note is once you get to a certain mass of results. So we're talking just AOS 2.2. We've got over 6,000 matches logged now. So it all evens out, is what I'm trying to say. Because you'll have those really good players playing Stormcast, and you'll have those really new players playing Stormcast. But the bell curve, so to speak, will even out because you've got so much data, and that's just statistics. Players, the more data you get logged, individual results matter less.
Yes, absolutely. But that's why it's always useful to look at those podiums as well. Really,
Exactly.
So the podium chart and this chart are really good to put together. So Hostess and Ash, currently they're sat at 2.2% representation, so 27 times they've been used. I really expect that to increase, but with new model ranges, especially those new Greater Demons, I think it's going to be a while before we see them on the tabletop because they're not the easiest models to paint up. So it's going to take a little bit of a while, I would say, and they're beautiful models. So I think people are going to take some time with them, and they're not going to speed paint them onto the tabletop. But we'll see. And we've got some pretty big events coming up soon, so we might see them. What about the old Gits? They got a podium last week, didn't they? They got in second place, but they're doing okay. But it's just really feeling for them at the minute. I really want them because they're in this kind of new wave of books, but it's not happening for them so far. And then Blades of Corn. 6% popularity, and I think you're going to see more of that as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And they can they can compete in the shooting environment, not the shooting environment, the combat environment of the game.
They used to be able to compete in the shooting environment. That's too soon, Rob. Come on. They just had that Band-Aid ripped off.
No, so I'm ignoring that. Yeah, they. Well, I mean, sorry. In the Activation Wars, they've been given a pass to the Activation Wars. Also, massive shout out to channel hero Sir Flukes a lot, who's subscribed for 18 months in a row. Boom shakalaka, and big love for him. I hope soon you get your Gutbusters Battle Tome. I look. I think Khorne can still do pretty good work personally.
Yeah, and there seems to be a lot of these bloodthirster heavy armies popping up on Twitter leading up to South Coast GT. So we'll see how they do there this weekend. Let's take a look at the bottom of the table.
I actually think that they're going to win this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, you think?
Well, so Hostess and Esh are going this weekend to. No, they're not. No one's taking them to South Coast. No,
they won't be out. I think they'll be out that weekend, right?
Yeah, I think Skaven then are going to win it because it's
it's
a 6-game event.
3? What's your top 3? South Coast GT. Let's lock it in. Top 3.
Well, there's the obvious 2 choices, which is going to be Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts, and I'm going to go for a wild card pick for the win, because South Coast GT usually ends up with some wild card choices as winners. I'm going to go for Bone Splitters.
I was going to say the same, oddly enough, but it was going to be contingent based on Ben Sava taking them, or at least that build showing up.
Yeah, I think that build, the Ben Sava build, which is Aether Quartz Brooch, a bunch of command abilities being rocked. As far as I'm aware, that's the first time I experienced it recently. I would say that's going to be that's my outside pick. And Barbaconi keeps asking, what were the list of the Skaven at the last tournament? Don't know, sir. Well, I'm sure it'll be on AOS Shorts if you go onto there. We normally don't cover it because Mr. Wonderful, gorgeous Dan Shorts normally puts the list up. So if you go onto AOSShorts.com, I'm always certain we'll have the list up for you. Yeah.
Lists on AOS Shorts, I believe, and there was also some Skaven covered from. Although they didn't podium, I think Dan touched on some Skaven lists last night on the Honest Wargamer Australian contingent show.
Good. All right, good. There you go. So, my pleasure. Sorry that took a while to answer. So in the chat, Mr. Ben Sava himself says he is going to win it. And Donaldinho says he's going to win it with Spiderfang, which is also a good shout. Joe Nort says Stryer. That's right. We'll do that. See you later, Hook and Pin. Have a nice day. Right. The next table we're going to look at is the 2.1 versus 2.2 comparison. This is where we get like a really nice breakdown of how the game has changed up over the past year, which I think is and you'll see the meta difference is the one that always makes me intrigued. And there is anything that's around 1% isn't a big deal.
Exactly, yeah. We get movers and shakers. So if you're looking, we'll just use Phoenix Temple as the example. Yes, they're top of the table, but their meta percentage is 0.2% right now. So anything like 0.1, 0.2%, if you kind of ignore them because of they are aberrations, so to speak, as far as you've only got 1 or 2 people doing them, so they swing more readily. But if you take those out of the equations, and you've basically got Daughters of Cain, Flesh Eater Courts, and Hosts of Slaanesh performing the best according to these numbers in AOS 2.2.
Wait, Dispossessed?
What's that?
What the fuckaroo? That's fuck off, you little short dickheads.
They're up there.
Why are they up there?
New narrative.
Oh my god! I should have tried harder at Adepticon. This is sick.
That's thanks to Dan, and that is also thanks to our friend in Australia that keeps getting 1 or 0 wins with Legion of Asgore.
Oh my god! Listen, whoever you are in Australia, take your Legion of Asgore army, just put your allegiance down as mixed chaos and stop stressing me out, because it's me and a couple of other players around the world who are trying to make Legion of Asgore better than the Dispossessed, and you're wrecking it for us. Yeah, whereas
he's obviously playing a Slaves to Darkness list, but under the Legions of Asgore.
Oh my god!
Faction, right?
Fuck! Oh no! Oh no! Now I've got to listen to all those idiots, including you. Yeah, banging on to me. Oh god!
We're talking about Flesh Eater Courts, but the true winner this week is Dispossessed and Dispossessed Dan in the Wet Coast GT, going 3-0. And he almost went 4-0, which would have given him an 80% win ratio, because we've never in the history of AOS 2.2 had Dispossessed recorded at an event.
There we go. So it's their first time. Yeah, because no one likes them because they're boring. They're tiny little silver models that no one can see. And they're rubbish. And they're so good. And they're so drunk all the time. Yeah? Get ready, dispossessed players. I'm coming for you now. That's it. Yeah? Joe Norton in the chat said, "You're boring." Which is, I think is fair. All right, fine. Legion of Asgore. We're going to get serious now. I was writing some jokey lists this week. I was just going to take Bull Centaurs. That's it now. 36 Kadai Fireborn. What are you going to do? Nothing.
Strike first.
Against the most boring army in the game. I'm coming for you, everyone.
I'm going to strike first against your 36 Kadai Fireborn with my 48 Flash Eater Cots G-Cot. There you go. That's what
you can't kill them all, baby. That's how it works. You can't kill them all. That's what I've done. I'm gonna make it so you can't kill them all. Oh wow! So well done, Dispossessed, getting up there. I'm proud of you. It's about time because you were languishing and rubbish for so long. No one really cares about you at this stage.
Yeah, they won't be there long. I'm playing them at Bobo, and I'm pretty sure that stat will drop pretty heavily after that. So,
Sinise, ignore that Kadai aren't dwarves. Just ignore that. They're living farts. Damn it. They're firebellies, dreaming of a better life. That's what they are. Okay, so then there's a final stat at the bottom, Mr. LLV.
Yeah. So speaking of dwarfs, we did a nice little rundown a little while ago. I thought we'd revisit that. So this is what we call the Dwarven / Dowie meta.
Oh my god, I'm so upset.
There you go. Look at that. Who are at the top, Rob?
Fuck.
For the podcasters out there.
At the top, if anyone's listening to the podcast and can't see the table, go and look at the table, you dicks. Dispossessed are at the top. They've been used one time by one Australian wanker called Dan, and he's managed to get 3 wins. Like anyone cares, and because of that, because of their aberrant stat, their one rubbish stat, they've got a 60% win rate, which is only so. Legion of Asgore has been used 12 times, and they've got a 58.3% win rate. So, like, we've got a consistently good stat, whereas the Dispossessed have got one rubbish girly stat. That's my... Oh, no, I've used girly. I don't mean that. Women are great, and powerful, and I like all of them. So...
but they're at the top of the table. Well,
yeah, they are at the top.
You said a lot of stuff, but Dispossessed are top of the Dwarven table right now.
Yes, they are. Thank you so much.
There we go.
Fuck.
Yeah, so we've got Dispossessed leading the charge of all the Dwarven races out there. Legion of Asgore are in second place. Fire Slayers, unfortunately, in third, and poor Caradron right at the bottom there. Oddly enough, Caradron are the most used Dwarven, and they are the worst performing. So we might actually see Fire Slayers jump up in this table as well. With
that's actually sorry. I'm actually emotionally a little bit.
Rob's just done.
Actually, it's taking a bit of the wind out of my sails. I'm like, oh fuck. That's actually the thing to look at here. Realistically, Fire Slayers getting themselves a book, and then with the rumored combined Dwarven book in the future, you're actually looking at the which Legion of Asgore won't get in there. My dark Dwarven brothers. But yeah, Fire Slayers sat at being used as much a Legion of Asgore at the minute, with arguably quite an old book, with a 48% win rate. I'm really hoping that we see not only them used more on the tabletop, and then the Caradron Overlord stat is quite interesting. The most used army, however, performing the worst. I would argue that that's just a lot of people, again, kind of like the Stormcast stat, like the boats are just such an attractive choice. Like, they're just such cool models that you want to put on the tabletop. But arguably, they're not the good part of the book. Maybe one boat, one of the ships is solid, and it's an argument as to which one. But realistically, it's all about the volume of shots coming from Arcanaut companies or things like Endrin Riggers. So that's the real powerhouse of that book. So I would say that it's more than likely people not just want to polarize in their armies so much, or paint up the same unit of 80 dudes, well, two lots of 40 of the same dudes, or the balloon guys, for instance. So it's a little bit of a sad stat that they're the most popular and the most, but I don't think that's necessarily representative of their full potential. I mean, obviously their full potential is still to be not as good a Legion of Asgore, but that's the facts. Anyway, yeah, that's sad. I can't believe that. Fuck. What a. I can't wait. I'm going to message him in a minute and call him a knob.
Yeah. This is an exclusive. Nobody's seen this table yet, even Dan. So he'll still be sleeping.
Oh, I'm going to have to listen to it. Oh my god, I'm going to get voice notes.
Yeah, 5:50 a.m. in BC right now.
As long as can we make sure no one tells Nathan? That's all I care about. Yeah, that's key. Please.
Yeah. So nobody in chat go onto the Honest Wargamer website. Nobody in chat clip this table, and definitely nobody in chat put it on Twitter.
Right. Anyway, well done, everyone. Well done. Right. Oh my god, this is terrible. Okay, listen, we're gonna get our day in the sun, Legion of Asgore. Don't worry, I'm proud of us all. I'd say, but going away from the constant Dwarven chat, I think there's loads. The game is really interesting at the minute with so many books. Obviously we've got some real powerhouses in both Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven, which are arguably too good in a lot of different ways. But we can do some thinking outside the box. Try really hard. I think we're going to have to go a bit of Deadpool and go for some maximum effort. It's going to be super hard to beat those armies, but we do have to think it through and work it out. But like, don't give up hope. I know that like it can seem a little bit like frantic at the minute, but just give it time and talk with your friends and try and win. That's the key. Yeah, get those wins in there, and especially, and it's, look, if you win with the Flesh Eater Courts army, I'm proud of you and I'm happy you've won a game, but it's not like much to write home about. If you do end up winning with a Fyreslayers army, that's going to be a thing. Yeah, that's important. If you win
or
with
a dispossessed army.
No, you could no. They've only got 3. If you look, their best result is 1-3 win. Our best result is 1-5 win. Thank you very much. Yeah. Right. Anyone else? LOV, thank you for joining us for the stat show. You're all amazing as always.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, you're wonderful. Thanks to everyone in the Twitch chat who has both helped me and hurt me. I appreciate you loads. Everyone on YouTube, if you want to leave some comments and likes and all that jazz, we really appreciate that. That helps out loads with algorithms and things. Facebook, you guys are boss. Podcasters, you guys are amazing. Thank you to everyone who subscribes on Twitch and subscribes on Patreon. It means the world to us. Helps us do really good stuff. Like Surfer Dibs, who just subscribed for 11 months in a row. So people like Fluxy and Scrivo who've subscribed for like 18 months and supported us from the beginning. I can't say nothing but love for you guys. And everyone who's new wants to jump on board and help us grow, because this isn't our final form. We want to grow and get bigger and better and do better stuff. So we'd appreciate that if you wanted to help us do that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And all I got to say is that Legion of Asgore are the best army in the world, in my opinion. I hope. But sadly, the stats say different. LOV, the stats have hurt me today.
They've hurt a lot of people in their time, and I'm sure they'll hurt a lot more. But yeah, dispossessed are the best. It's up there it's in ink, as they would say.
All I can say is fuck you, Nathan.